All right, I'm back on the skid steer project. My main focus on this video is going to be the fuel tank. I dug into it a little bit last fall, and it did not look easy to do. The fuel tank is down underneath there, and I had the bolts out and a few other things, but I felt like it was tricky to get it out. So we're going to try again. And I have a little free time here to where I can actually, I think I had to either cut the frame or something. I can't remember what it was, but I need to get in there and find out what it's going to take. And while I do that, I'm going to do a couple other modifications as well. I took the plastic part off of this side here. That side still has it on there. I really like that because it's open. There's a lot more room. It's a lot sturdier. So when I take this all apart again, I'm going to remove that plastic, and I think I'm going to remove this as well. The cable's bad for the throttle. Currently I just use the foot pedal, which is down under the floor there. That seems to work fine. So I'm going to remove this just to get a little more room in the cab. So to start off, just take the bolts out, get the cab up, get the rubber mat out, get the floor pan out of here. We're going to get these taken off, which is just 3 bolts which come in from the outside on both sides. Get those out of the way, and then we'll get down in there and look at that fuel tank again, and I'll show you what it looks like. So let me get all that done and back to where I was in the last video, and then we'll see what we can do. All right, I've got this skid loader back to where I was last time. So got the cab bolts out, got the seat, everything up, the cab up. I pulled both joysticks out here and here. I got them pulled up by bungee straps. Here's the floorboard with the computer and the throttle cable right here. Got that sitting up out of the way. I got the filler hose right here pulled off, and it goes basically from the fill to there. And I pulled off the fuel line, which is sitting right here. And this little fuel line has a hose clamp. It just goes down there to that barb on the side of the tank. So I got that done, and then the fuel sending unit's out from last time still, but here's the wiring harness for it. Just 2 wires, and there's a clip right there that goes in there. And then I got the last clamp over on this side, which you maybe can see right there. There's 2 bolts and a little clamp that sits in there. I've already got that out. So I'm looking at this, and I'm debating on it here. I don't see any easy way to get this out. However, the more I look at it, the more I think it's designed to do is to take this, I don't know what that would be. There's like a little solenoid there with a block. Got 2 bolts holding that to a bracket right there. There's 1 hose and 3 on the back. I'm thinking that is made for to take that out, at least get it loosened up to movable, take that out, take that hose clamp and this one on this hose out, and then with this hose here out of the way, there's 2 hoses. There's one here that comes from over there. There's one here. Take this out. Then there's a hose right here. Undo that one. And then there's one on the bottom, which comes and loops around and becomes this hose. So you could just take it off there, but if I do that, I'm looking at it, then there's 2 bolts, one there and one over there, and that whole pump looks like it comes out pretty easy. This hose goes to the top of the tank, so that must be the return, I'm assuming, because the suction's usually on the bottom. Not that I would guarantee that, but I think that's the plan, is get this pump out, because if I do that, that pump should swing in this little crevice here, swing out, pull him out of the way, And with that block over there out and the pump out, there's not a whole lot over there that's in the way. I'm thinking I can just take and put a pry bar on the bottom in there, pry the tank forward as far as I can go, and I'm hoping to clear. I'm thinking that's what it's designed to do. I mean, why would you have all that notch like that to pull the pump out, and it'd be pretty easy? I mean, the biggest thing is just make sure you put that pump back the way it's supposed to be, and it should be fine. The biggest issue is, you know, there's so much dirt around the tank on both sides, the front, the back, everything, that she might be tough to move. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that block out right there, pull that hose out, and the hose is on the pump out, and we'll try and get them 2 bolts, get that pump out of there. Once that's out, then I'm going to try and wiggle this and try and see if I can't get it to move. If anything, if I can get it close enough to where it's right on the edge here, then maybe we can just notch part of that or something to make it clear the rest of the way, if it's an issue. So let me take that out and those hoses and get them all capped off, and then we'll see what it looks like. Alright, just bringing in for a little update. I got most of the hoses unhooked. This solenoid here has got one on the bottom yet that I haven't undone. It's kind of a tough one though, so I'm leaving it on. Hopefully I can scoot it back. I got the pump loosened. There's 2 bolts in it here and on the back side here. I'm going to try and get that out, and then hopefully this fuel tank will scoot that way. I don't know, but I'm going to definitely try it. So let's see if we get this pump out. Okay. There's an O-ring in there. Oh. All right, I got the pump out. There was an O-ring in here. There's a groove. It looks like it's in good shape. And there's a coupler here. I'm not going to remove that, 'cause there's no reason to. I've got a hose right here that I want to remove because it's pretty close to this tank, and then I think we can try and push the tank. So let me get that off and then let's see what happens. Okay, I'm working on this tank yet. I did miss a fitting. There is one fitting down there on the bottom, right in the center of the tank, and that line would be this little guy right here, and that'd be the a fuel line. Go to the back, probably the suction line, I suppose. But anyways, this is getting pretty involved. A lot more work than I thought it was going to be. So I'm looking at this, and I've got it moved. As you can see, I got a pretty good gap over here now. There's a ton of dirt around this thing to where you can't hardly squeeze it except with a pry bar. Got some room over here on this side. The pump's out of the way, of course, there's room there, but over here on the valve body, I'm still kind of stuck. And to take that valve body out would be a ton of work. I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking is, I think I am going to notch the frame. This side over here, we only need to take a few inches, nothing crazy. It shouldn't affect our floor plate at all. This side over here, there's a little bit more, I guess you want to say, material there on the side of the tank. I might need to take a little bit more out, might need to weld a little in, I don't know. But if I cut that out, then the front part of the tank here will slide straight up and the back side won't have to go any further back. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna throw some caps on some of these hydraulic lines and cover up the coupler there for the pump, so I don't want grinding dust in there, you know. And then I'm gonna get the old die grinder out or whatever and gently trim some of this to where I can get this thing to come up a little bit and get the tank to come up forward, versus having to take that valve out, take a bunch of lines over there off maybe that are buried down in the mud. There's 4 inches of grease and oil and mud in the bottom, so that's delicious. And I don't know if I'd even be able to find them, and then you're just contaminating the lines. So I'm gonna cut and we'll see if we can wiggle it out. Alright, had a little change of thought here. Before I cut the frame, I'm going to cut the tank out, because then I can clean up and maybe they'll show something that I'm not seeing. So before I go cutting this frame here, I cut it out. I'm using a Sawzall with a wood cutting blade, just because, you know, all this oil and diesel and grease and, you know, I don't want it to catch fire, so I'm minimizing my time. Sawzall's going right through it. So I got the top off. I'm gonna chop the sides off and maybe try to do something in the excuse me, in the bottom, to where I can get, you know, half the tank gone and then the other half can just slide out. I don't know. I'm gonna keep plugging away at it, and then we'll come back and maybe I can get it cleaned up and show a little bit better. Okay, I got the tank out with the Sawzall, cutting it up into little pieces. There's all kinds of dirt in there. I bet you there's 1 inch, 2 inches on the bottom and quite a bit on the sides. I think that's half the problem. You know, there's no room to wiggle it around to make it do what you need to do. So, as you can see, she's in a bunch of pieces over there. It really wasn't that bad to get it out as far as with the Sawzall, but my next goal is I'm going to spend the rest of my life probably scraping all this gunk out and get all the room that I can and get it clean. If I get it clean, potentially then I can you know, see a little bit better why, you know, what the way it needs to go back together, because I would love to see the new one just slide in. That would be ideal. But yeah, anyways, so you know, finger snap, YouTube magic, it's clean. I wish. All right, a little update on the skid loader. I got everything cleaned out as well as I can by hand. Just to kind of give you an idea, this is not all of it, but it's half a wheelbarrow full of grease and mud and nastiness. So it's definitely a fun little adventure for sure here. Now that I've got it apart, cleaned up, I should say, kind of give some perspective in here. There's quite a bit more room than you realize. There's actually 2 little holes on each side right here for drains. And then if you wanted to, that plate right there unbolts from the bottom. Now that I've got it apart, I think to help myself a little bit. This line here, I see that it stops right here. I'm going to take that line off, get some extra clearance. Here is that valve, and there's a nut there on the bottom. I'm going to try and take that off now that I have a little more room, just to open up a little bit. This line here goes back quite a ways, so I'm not going to touch it. But I think if I get those two out of the way, the only thing that might be an issue is this and the valve body itself, which I really don't want to take off. It looks like it's bolted right here, a couple of bolts on the bottom, or there's some type of bracket here for something, or maybe it's yeah, maybe, or maybe it's bolted into the firewall here. I'm not for sure. Anyways, let me get them off, and then let's just try the tank and see what happens. So for the most part, I'm sitting here and I got one line back here, a pilot line going up to the controls I gotta take off, and this bracket over here, I gotta bend him a little bit. I think it would go for the most part then, but let's be honest, I want to make it as easy as possible. So I think if I took right here and took about, I don't know, 4 inches, this little square here, if I cut that off on both sides, then I think this guy would, the whole thing could move over this way. You probably wouldn't even need to take that line off. It would clear a lot easier and everything would be faster. So I'm gonna hack them off and then I'll bring you back. Okay, I got the tank in. Had to trim both sides like I said. Once I got that done, I did hang up a little bit right here on the valve body. So I ended up doing was, and I kind of shot myself in the foot when I did this, but down here on the bottom, the ear here, if you can see, on the ear here, I shaved it down with a grinder, the plastic, you know, thinking, oh, that whole ear, that's probably not part of the tank, that's probably solid. Nope, it's only 1/4 inch thick, maybe. So I got a small hole down the bottom there. I'm going to patch that with some type of, I don't know if it'll be epoxy or whatever, but I'll find something. Anyways, if you do this and you cut here, the wiring for the computer goes right under here, so be careful about that. But if I patch that hole, it's in, so a guy can put it back together now. I'm sure it doesn't say anything in the book whatsoever about how to do this. It just shows the parts breakdown, and this is the CAT service manual. I'm sure they want you to take that valve body out. If you take that valve body out, you probably don't need to cut the frame. That being said, just looking at all of those hard lines and that valve and all the work that would go involved to take that out just makes me not even wanna. So I'd rather patch a small hole in the bottom of the tank myself. If you did a little bit more work, you know, maybe take them deals out of the valve on the side there, maybe you could get it, but I didn't want to do that. So anyways, I'm going to patch that hole. I'm going to get the bolts in the side, because there's bolts that where them two ears are, and I'll get the bracket here put on. I got my fittings to put on the back, my fill cap. So I got this guy here for the wiring harness for the sending unit. I'm gonna get all that put on, hooked up. We got to get the pump back in. We got to get all that stuff put back together. We get that done, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, it's been a minute for sure. Couple of weeks at least. I've been tinkering away on this project, and you know, we hit some snags and other things popped up that had to be done, and it's just the way she goes sometimes. But just to catch you up, I've been working on the fuel tank. I had issues, you know, I don't know if I said it in the last part of the video or not, but I couldn't quite get the tank in there. So I shaved down the corner and realized that I had put a hole in it after the fact, because it's real thin, I guess. Anyways, I had to pull the tank back out, had to get some stuff to seal it, fix it, etc., etc. Got that done. Now it's been cured for a while, and it's been sitting with diesel in it for a while, and seems to be holding and working. And now it's time to go back together. What I ended up having to do was, there's bolts from the outside of the frame that come in and bolts that valve body to the frame. I took them out, and I got a ratchet strap there right now, and that gave me enough leverage to wiggle the valve body up. I had to trim a little bit more out of my floor here, and then I was able to get the tank out pretty comfortably. I think if you were doing this like for a customer or somebody you know is paying you to do it, you know, obviously you can't cut the frame. You'd have to take, I think you'd have to take that valve body out, probably take some of those steel hydraulic lines out, potentially. I'm not for sure. Either way, this is a pain in the butt. So I got some pig mats here. I need to soak up that oil down there in the bottom, because she's just been dripping slightly over the last couple weeks. Clean up a few things and get it ready to go, and then we'll try and get that tank back in. Just to kind of show you, so here's the tank, and this is where I shaved it down, and it's been sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks now easily, with diesel in it up to about here. So it's been submerged for weeks, and it's not leaking, so, which is great. Yeah, so I'm going to drain the diesel out of that. I'm going to clean up my mess in here. We're going to get the tank put back in, soak up this oil here, get the tank put back in, and then there's multiple lines here, you know, for hydraulics and the fuel lines and all that good stuff. I've got O-rings, cat O-rings to put in there. I'm going to replace those, the O-rings, and we'll start putting her back together. So let me get a little work done here and a few things going, and then I'll bring you back when I've got some progress. Why are you stuck? That's not... Is that what I did? I can't remember now. Okay, I've got the tank back in. I was wondering how I did that. It's been a minute since I took this out, but yeah, so I just used a ratchet strap and pulled that up. Got enough clearance to get through that to where I could get this in and that in, and now she's sitting where she needs to be. So there's two bolts. It goes through the frame, and a giant washer. I don't know if I've got those here or not. I don't think I do. I'll have to go drag them out of wherever they're at. But there's basically a giant bolt that squeezes those tabs to the frame, and I believe there's a giant washer that goes with it, one on each side. And then I've got the bracket here with the bolts, and that goes down there. Then we got you know, the fuel lines to hook up, and the cap and the vent and all this guy here for the, oh, what do you call that, fuel sending unit. Get this all hooked up and done. Then we can start hooking up some hydraulic lines and put the pump back in. Would be sitting out there, and I think that's the auxiliary pump. I'm not for sure. I'm not a mechanic. I just do what I can. So yeah, let me hook this all up. I'll start putting stuff back together, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, I'm back on the fuel tank here. I got most of it buttoned up. The only thing really left to do is put the fuel fill nozzle in. I've got it filled full of diesel, and I've got most of the hydraulic lines put back together. And basically I need to fill the hydraulic tank, and then I'll start it and test everything, of course. And then if nothing leaks, you know, I put all new O-rings and everything. Hopefully it doesn't leak, but we'll check that. If everything's good to go, then we can start putting the arms and the floor panel and all that stuff back together, and the computer, which is right here, just bolts in down there. And then I need to wire in the sending unit. So pretty straightforward once you start getting it put back together, but let me keep on going and I'll bring you back. Alright, I think this will probably be the last update on this fuel tank replacement. I've got it in, I've got it bolted down. Most of the main components are put back together. The only thing left to do is put oil in it and put the joysticks back where they need to be, and the floor plate. I wired in my connections here, tightened up all my lines, got my fuel fill neck put in right there. I think everything's more or less ready to go other than topping the oil off. So I'm hoping this helps somebody who has a machine like this that wants to try this themselves. It's a lot of work, so just kind of plan on that, and it's going to take some time. I think the only thing I would do differently is, other than power washing it better, is just plan on taking that valve body out. I think that would have saved me a lot of heartache and trouble, is just plan on taking that valve body out, and possibly some of those lines, those steel lines there, or maybe a guy could bend them up enough. I don't know. But that's a lot of work and a lot of O-rings to replace and a lot of things to do, and yeah. But anyways, it's all together. Like I said, I'll button up a few last things, and then she'll be hopefully good to go, and I can start using her again because I kind of need it. But anyways, thanks for watching. Hope this helps.